Myself, Deepti Sharma, and I am a research scholar in Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences in the Department of CBR and Defense. And here I would like to talk about the basics of some wound healing and the role of oxidative stress in them. So first, sir, can you proceed to second slide? So first, I would like to talk about the wounds. Any injury to the skin, either caused by physical, mechanical, or chemical stress, leads to the wound formation. In this figure, there are shown some types of wounds, like incision wound, which is a normal surgical cut. Then the laceration wounds, it is a tearing apart of skin, and it is more prone to bacterial contaminations. There is abrasion when the skin gets rubbed by some rough surface and cause the wound. Puncture wound caused by some sharp pointed objects. Then penetration wound appears through the skin and passes through the body, tearing apart all the organs it passes. Then there is contusion. It is just like the breakage of small capillaries under the skin, through which the blood seeps out through the over the all the tissues. Then there is hematoma. Hematoma is more harmful than the contusions, because in this the blood capillaries, the big blood vessels get breaks, and all the blood seeps out through them, pooling the tissues with all the bloods. These are the types of wounds depending upon the penetration of the skin. And there are other two categories on which wounds are divided on the basis of healing time frame. These are acute wounds and chronic wounds. The acute wounds heal within a very short period of time, and the chronic wounds are the wounds that takes the long time to heal or does not heal at all. This third slide. Now we will proceed to the wound healing and its phases. Wound healing normally composed of four basic phases. These are hemostasis, inflammation, proliferation, and tissue remodeling. Proliferation consists of two things. One is dermis formation, in which collagen formation and angiogenesis occurs, and there is keratinocyte migration, where reepithelialization occurs. Wound healing starts with the injury to the skin. First, hemostasis come into play, where the platelets, sorry, where the platelets came to the injured site and forms a blood clot. And there they secrete some enzymes and cytokines, which activates the inflammatory cell recruitments from the blood vessels and the nearby macrophages and mast cells. And in turn, they also secrete other cytokines or growth factors which are responsible for the inflammation to occur. And the inflammatory phase, these cells, cytokines, pro-inflammatory cytokines, macrophages, neutrophils reach the wound site and produce ROSs, which in turn is responsible for causing fibroblast migration, keratinocyte migration, resulting in collagen deposition and reepithelialization. And the last phase is tissue remodeling, in which maturation of collagen fibers, in which the collagen fibers formed in the proliferation phase gets cross-linked with each other. And there is a complete wound closure in the acute wounds. But if any of these phases get stuck, or the wound gets stuck in any of these phases, maybe due to some external or internal conditions like hypoxia or bacterial contamination, fungal contamination, then it will lead to the chronic wound formation. Sorry. All the phases are overlaps with each other. Like in that graph, the inflammation takes 4 to 6 phases, proliferation take 4 to 24 days, and the remodeling phase takes 21 days to 2 years, approximately 2 years. Any discrepancy in these phases will lead to chronic wounds and the non-healing wound formation. Thank you, sir. Next slide. This is a difference between acute wound and chronic wound healing. In acute wound, there is a systematic interplay of all the cytokines, growth factors, cells required in the wound healing. Like platelet forms a clot, they secrete some enzymes or cytokines, which in turn activate the macrophages, fibroblast, neutrophils extravasation to the wound site, and then they in turn causes proliferation of collagens and keratinocytes. And in the last, remodeling occurs. The wound gets closed. But in chronic wounds, if there comes an infection or an oxygenless deoxygenated condition like hypoxia, sorry, so it will cause some problems in the wound healing. Like there is always an extravasation of inflammatory cells to the wound site. There is always an increased level of pro-inflammatory cytokines and growth factors and ROS, which leads to abrupt wound healing or aberrant wound healing, leading to fibrosis and keloid formation. And epithelial layer will get divided over and over. And these are, yes, the next slide. These are some factors that affect the wound healing, infection, sustained inflammation, tissue necrosis is also a main problem. Periwound dermatitis, it is a redness around the wound area. Periwound edema, the swelling around the wound. Hematomas, dehiscence, opening of sutured wound. Hypoxia, no oxygen will reach the wound. These all complication leads to formation of non-healing wounds. So next slide. So these were the some basics of wound and wound healing. And now I would like to proceed to oxidative stress. Basically, oxygen is a requirement for normal wound healing because all the processes here are oxygen dependent, which are crucial for wound repair. Mostly hydrogen peroxides and superoxides are involved as intracellular messenger that stimulates the main phases of the wound healings, like recruitment of monocyte neutrophils to the wound site and cytokine production and angiogenesis. In this figure, we can also see that H2O2 is more important for all the phases of wound healing, like hemostasis, neutrophil migration, pathogen defense, lymphocytes recruitment, and tissue and at the last phase, tissue repair. The next slide. In this figure, it is also seen normally that normal wound healing require ROS at all the phases, like vasoconstriction, blood coagulation, chemotaxis, anti-infectious defenses, angiogenesis, cell migration, cell proliferation, and fibrosis. But But if any imbalance between production of ROS and its defense through intracellular antioxidant machinery happens, it will lead to a condition called oxidative stress, which is more harmful for the wound repair. So next slide. Normally, the body can regulate the ROS level by endogenous antioxidants. These are SOD, superoxide dismutase, catalase, NADPH, GSH related glutathione S transferases, epoxide hydrolase, heme oxygenase 1, and many more. These can take care of the excessive ROS level. They donate their own electrons to the ROS and neutralize them. like oxygen get converted to superoxide, which in presence of superoxide dismutase converted to hydrogen peroxide, which in turn in the presence of catalase converted to normal water and molecular oxygen, and by Fenton's reaction converted to hydroxyl radical. And hydroxyl radical has the ability to damage macromolecules like lipid, protein, DNA, causing their modification and their structural and functional modifications. And now, how the oxidative stress impair the wound healing. Actually, the ROS production is important for wound healing, and but the excessive ROS production may lead to sustained inflammation condition, as well as the low ROS level leads to low inflammation, which has also a detrimental effects on normal wound repair. And excessive ROS can directly or indirectly affect or degrade the extracellular matrix proteins and cause the impaired dermal fibroblast and keratinocyte function. Means there will be no normal migration and proliferation of fibroblasts and keratinocytes. And this ongoing stress is associated with lipid peroxidation, protein and DNA modification and damage, which has shown to impair wound healing process via increased cell apoptosis and senescence. By cell apoptosis and senescence, there will be no normal wound healing process occur. And there are some clinical studies that suggest that non-healing wounds are the wounds that impaired wound healing are present in the highly oxidizing environment. Means tissue hypoxia can also occur when there is a more than required oxygen is present in the environment. So next slide. Then there is a sorry. Then the oxidative stress can lead to inflammation. They are interrelated to each other. Means inflammation can also lead to oxidative stress, as oxidative stress leads to inflammation. How? The ROS present there in the wound area, it may initiate the intracellular signaling cascade, which increase the pro-inflammatory gene expressions, and which in turn causes the more inflammation. The main molecule get activated is the NF-kappa B molecule, which is then stimulated by more oxidative stress and intracellular redox status. And also the ROS released from the damaged mitochondria activate the inflammasomes. They are the innate immune proteins that leads to the inflammatory conditions. It leads to the IL-1 beta expression. And oxidatively damaged DNA induce a signaling cascade that culminates in the pro-inflammatory gene expression and cell accumulation. Means there may be more fibrosis or keloid formation or hypertrophic scars. And now, how is inflammation is involved in wound healing? What is the normal procedure? Inflammation also plays an important role in healing. Immediately after the injury, the innate immune system is activated and initiate an inflammatory response that includes the recruitment of inflammatory cells like neutrophils, mast cells, macrophages, lymphocytes to the wound area. It starts with the degranulation of platelets and resident mast cells, which in turn activate the resident macrophages and activate them to secrete pro-inflammatory mediators, which in turn activates the extravasation of neutrophils. And in response to these signals, the level of leukocyte chemoattractants increase and enhance the leukocytes recruitment here. And hypoxia also stimulates these cell types. And what is inflammation? Inflammation is actually a double-edged sword. Means it is harmful and it is also an important procedure for any type of normal body processes. In wound, it is a key step for wound repair, and without inflammation, the wound healing will not proceed. And normal level of inflammatory cells and cytokines in wound site result in normal repairing of wound. Uh, and what are the harmful effects of inflammation? If there is an excessive inflammation, it can result to chronic or deregulated response, creating or causing further tissue damage, and increased levels of ROS production and their sustained levels in the wound results in chronic inflammation, which may lead to non-healing or delayed healing wounds. And the high level of inflammatory cells and cytokines leads to aberrant healing, like fibrosis or non-healing wounds. For example, keloids formation, diabetic ulcer wounds, and infected wounds are some of examples of aberrant inflammation or sustained inflammation. So next slide. Like in the previous slide, I have told oxidative stress leads to inflammation. Here is the statement: the inflammation leads to oxidative stress, means they are interrelated to each other. The ROS produced by inflammatory cells act as signaling intracellular molecules and inflammatory mediators. And at the inflammation site, the activated inflammatory cells release more ROS as well as pro-inflammatory enzymes and cytokines, causing more tissue damage and more oxidative stress. And co-stimulation of transcription factor activation or pro-inflammatory gene expression causes the cytokine imbalance, resulting in more ROS generation. Interferon gamma and LPS, means lipopolysaccharides, synergistically increase the ROS production. And the macrophages produce excessive oxidative stress to eliminate these pathogens and induce cell death via apoptosis and creating an imbalance. So therefore, both the processes are related to each other. So next slide. To curb the oxidative stress and inflammation, we need a good wound healing agent that can provide some features to the wound. This is an ideal healing environment and versus the dry healing environment. What is the difference? The formulation or a dressing should protect the wound from the surrounding environment, it should be protected from debris, pathogens, dust particles, and cover the whole wound. It should provide the artificial extracellular matrix where all the cells, cytokines, growth factors can adhere and proceed or accelerate the wound healing. The environment should be moist, but not too moist. Uh, Means it should have the optimal water for the transport of nutrients and for healing. So next slide. And according to this, there are three therapeutic strategies for the wound healing. First, based on the ROS function modulation, and the topical application of ROS intermediates converted into biologically available molecular oxygen, such as hydrogen peroxide, have been suggested as better wound healing products based on their positive results in some experimental studies. And these are some ROS function modulators. First, topical hydrogen peroxide or related intermediates. It has an antibacterial activity, promotes oxygen formation, increase the angiogenesis, and various immunocyte recruitment. It causes the keratinocyte proliferation and migration, leading to normal wound healing. Recombinant glucose oxidase increase the perfusion of blood vessels via nitrogen oxide, facilitate wound closure, keratinocyte differentiation and collagen formation, and the hydrogen peroxide related effects. Honey is a good antibacterial agent. It also recruit immunocytes, means neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes to the wound site, and it also has an hydrogen peroxide related effects. Galvanic particles are the charged electron particles in which electric current pass through the wound for the migration or polarization of fibroblast. So it reduces inflammation, causes the fibroblast migration, and show hydrogen peroxide related effects. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is given for to increase the blood oxygen levels to reduce the wound hypoxia, and it is efficient in phagocytic respiratory burst and hydrogen peroxide related effects. Recombinant platelet derived growth factor increase perfusion via nitrogen oxide, like as recombinant glucose oxidase, and promote angiogenesis, neutrophils, macrophages, and fibroblasts migration to the wound site. Recombinant galectin 1 is important for myofibroblast signaling and ROS release via NADPH oxidase and other hydrogen peroxide related effects. By these, the ROS is modulated and the wound repair can be proceed. Second one is antioxidant therapy. Some antioxidants can be phytochemicals or normal endogenous synthetic molecules like SOD, catalase can be used to create to proceed the wound healing process or accelerate the wound healing, or they can be a promising therapy for the wound healing. SOD, superoxide dismutase, decrease the ROS level and wound edema. Vitamin C helps in collagen formation. Vitamin D accelerates the reepithelialization and increase the tensile strength of the healed tissue. Vitamin E decrease the keloid or scar formation, means it helps in the remodeling phase of the wound healing. Alpha lipoic acid scavenges the ROS. Metronidazole is an antibiotic. It accelerates the reepithelialization and decreases the melandialdehyde levels. Melandialdehyde is an indicator of oxidative stress. The elemental antioxidants like copper, selenium, zinc increase the endogenous antioxidants and thereby accelerate the wound healing. The next slide. And the last, there are some treatment with anti-inflammatory compounds. There are some more, but I have filter out some important one. These are topical corticosteroids, NSAIDs. NSAIDs are actually important for chronic wound healing. If it is given in acute wound healing as topical or either as orally, then it will create more problem in wound healing because it will diminish the inflammation, which is a necessary step for the wound healing process. So it is given in chronic wounds treatment, and main advantage is that it will help in pain relieving. Second, retinoids. Retinoids promotes the granulation tissue formation. In protease modulating matrix also promotes granulation tissue formation and reactivate the wound repair in chronic wounds. Curcumin decreases the expression of pro-inflammatory cytokines and enzymes and increase the expression of anti-inflammatory cytokines and enzymes. Protein supplementations like milk whey protein, it enhances the wound closure and restore the pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory cytokines to the normal balanced levels. Nutraceuticals decreases the inflammatory cytokine levels. Neurotensin, apart from as a neuroactive the meeting gets ended.
Sorry for interruption. No
Oh,
problem.
no, sir, no, sir. Where we are, the neurotensin. The neurotensin is a neuropeptide which also has a function in wound repair like the inflammatory phase. Doxycycline has an anti-inflammatory as well as immunomodulatory effects via inhibition of matrix metalloproteinases. And going to some phytochemicals or plant products,
जूम
aloe vera
फोन में है
has
तो
al
अपना कनेक्ट हो जाएगा बैटरी जैसे
hello,
Yes, ma'am.
hello, am I
Continue.
audible?
Yeah, ma'am. Continue, ma'am. Continue.
Okay. Aloe vera stimulates the cell proliferation and collagen synthesis and angiogenesis, promoting the wound contraction. Seabuckthorn also has various good wound healing properties, like it stimulates the wound healing process by improving the contraction of wound and reepithelialization. It can also increase the hydroxyproline and protein content of the wound, as well as Calendula officinalis, like marigold, stimulate the proliferation and migration of fibroblasts and stimulate the collagen production and angiogenesis. And rosemary reduces the inflammation, improve wound contraction, reepithelialization, angiogenesis, and collagen deposition in the wounds. It may help in chronic wound as well as in acute wounds. But the treatment with NSAIDs should be for the chronic wound healing. And there is more research going on in this field. Maybe one day we can get the best wound healing agent for healing all the wounds like diabetic ulcers and other radiation dermatitis and normal bacterial contaminated wounds, etc. And that's all. Thank you.
Nice presentation. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you,
You
sir.
have given a lot to us. We have enjoyed, but there was a
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
restriction. That's not minor when the speaker given his best, and you have delivered a lot, which is basically focused on total thrust of the research dealing to the wounds, animal science, skins, tissues. Even though we are aware about the little bit things about the tissue, skin cells, but we are not so aware. Just I wish to share my views that we are taking several kinds of medicine in the wound healing to reduce the inflammation, but you have described it. It is an unnecessary until unless the wound is chronic.
Yes, sir.
If
Bilkul.
there is inflammation, it means the normal process is going on and wound is recovering and healing right now. But we just, after any kinds of injury, just take the medicine to reduce the inflammation, and I
Yes.
suppose it may prolong the way of healing.
Yeah.
In the times when I was at the age of 5 to 7, there was no medicine in our house, and any kinds of wounds when created, then it will, after some Ayurvedic medicine and otherwise, it will just completed healing its healing within few days. But right now, when any kinds of wound is created in our hand, just go to the hospitals and take the precautionary measures, even though it's the right way to reduce the secondary infection, I suppose. But avoid to take any anti-inflammatory, anti-analgesic like substances which may cause secondary damage to our body also. And you have described all the aspects very well, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you so much.
you have given some aspects of and basic role of the ROS actually regarding to the healing and wounds.
Yes, sir. It is also depend upon the genetic makeup of the person,
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
the wound gets healed, or the
Yeah,
medicine will do its work on him or not.
yeah. Several kinds of disease may also elicit the pattern and reduce the wound healing also like
Yes, yes,
diabetes,
sir.
other sugar issues, diabetic conditions may
Yes.
also major thing. And just in the early phases of the slide, when you have described, just I asked a question
Yes,
that
sir.
what the difference between the wounds, necrosis, is it possible the normal wounds may lead to the cancer because it is generally describing if any kinds of wound in our body, if you are not taking it or if you are taking it lightly, it may lead into the cancer or some other lethal aspects.
Sir,
So,
actually, there is not. I have not come into this study that wound, not aberrant wound healing will lead to cancer because it may form a keloids, normal papules on the skin, like moles. It may form a keloid, which is also an increased cell production there, but it will not lead to cancer. So there is not a possibility of proceeding towards the cancer.
so in precautionary measures, what step we can take? Suppose that if
Precautionary
any,
measures, we can rely on our diets, mostly antioxidants like vitamin E, oranges, and ginger, yeah, garlic. We can take these in our diets or add in our diets. So there is not a problem in normal wound healing then. And
yes,
normal, we can use normal Ayurvedic products also because it will not show any side effects.
yeah, you have mentioned two factors which stimulate the therapeutic activities, I suppose, if I'm right, one is retinoid, I suppose,
Hmm.
and just below that, there is retinoid something also. And you have to prevent the use of corticosteroid, I suppose. But both are causing the granulation during the healing, tissue
Yes,
granulation.
sir. Because
Yeah.
because
Just
these
are getting.
are known for anti-inflammation. These two products are known for their anti-inflammation. But if we give them in acute wounds, then it will cause the wound to get more aberrant. Means the wound will not get healed. Never. मतलब delayed healing or non-healing wound. It can produce a non-healing wound also. So therefore, they are given in the chronic wound inflammations because it requires
Okay.
the low level of inflammation rather than the acute wounds.
Any question from the other student audience? Students? Okay. Now
No,
I wish
sir.
to request Dr. Manoj Singh sir, if listening me. Dr. Manoj Singh sir?
Yes, yes. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Please say
Yeah, okay.
about
Uh,
please.
okay, it was indeed uh, a nice presentation given by Miss Dipti, and
Thank
she
you,
has
sir.
been doing really hard work on the topic she has represented. So it is immense pleasure for us to share your thoughts, and I wish her all the best for her future career.
Thank
And
you, sir. Thank you very much.
Now I wish
okay.
to
So,
request.
Dr. Susil, are you going to facilitate with her with the live membership also?
Yeah, just I'm going to share his presentation slide as a guest speaker, sir.
Okay.
I suppose it is opening, and I wish to request Dr. Manoj Singh and Dr. Raj Singh sir as co-convener to kindly present this certificate of recognition to Dr. Sharma ma'am as a guest speaker of this today's session. So please, sir.
Okay. This is definitely again very privileged to receive this certificate. I think uh, Ms. Dipti will be highly obliged from the organizing committee to receive this certificate. That is the
Yes, sir.
life
Thank you, sir.
membership for International Association of Zoologists, and you are means you can now become the member of this part, and in future definitely we would love to have some more kind of activity from your end on behalf of this committee. And again, I wish you all the best for your future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving
Thank you,
time
sir.
with us and presentation. And now we have a short break of few minutes. I suppose we will reassemble here at 12:05 with new speaker of the session. So, Mr. Siddharth,
Yes, sir.
just about 5 minutes, and we will reassemble here at 12:05. And
Okay,
as
sir.
per our next, I'll share my views on the same aspect. Okay.
Okay, okay, sir.
So thank you so much for patience listening to all. We will reassemble here after 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you all of you.